college. Why do you think there was so much celebration over Bin Laden?
You know, I didn't celebrate. I felt a sense of satisfaction. I felt a sense of pride for America. I felt a sense of pride in my president, who sent Navy SEALs in, made that order. They performed with excellence. They did their job. They got out. I had a sense of pride in terms of, America can get something done. That America, follows through on its promise. It said that this man, we will hunt him down to the ends of the earth, and we will bring justice to him for causing all these deaths on 9/11. So when I heard that news, I felt a sense of pride and satisfaction. I can't say that my reaction was joy or jubilance or anything of that nature. And I didn't react that way, but I did feel a strong sense of pride, simply because, and it goes back to, back in Rome, the old saying was that the power of being a Roman citizen was you could walk anywhere in the Roman Empire safe in the knowledge that if you were harmed, that Roman government would bring justice to you. That was how powerful being a Roman citizen was. That if anybody did any harm to you, that the full might and weight of the Roman government would come and bring justice. And I felt like that the other day we heard about Bin Laden, that if somebody harms an American, they don't get a pass. We're going to go after them, and there's something about being an American citizen that cries out for justice when you're killed like that. So I felt pride.
I'm
Yes,
Hannah
ma'am.
Jefferson.
First name again?
Hannah.
Hey, Hannah.
I'm 16, and when I go to college, I want to play volleyball and be a criminal investigator.
How tall are you? You look like you're tall.
6'1".
Okay.
What are the most important things you look for in selecting a state political party chairman?
The ability to raise money. Get right down to it. If you want to be successful in politics on a statewide basis, and if you're going to be a party chairman, you have to have the ability to pick up the phone and ask people to give money. Because what they're then going to do is when your candidates run, they're going to want assistance from you so they can send out mailers, they can get up on TV, they can get up on radio, because that's the way you get your message out. I can tell you, I hate raising money. The thing about being a politician that I hate the most is getting on the phone and asking people to contribute money to my campaign. I don't mind doing it for other people. I did it for Sanford, I've done it for other candidates that I believed in. It's easy for me to call up and ask money for somebody else. It's hard for me to call up and ask for money for myself. There's an aversion I have to that. That just, I'd rather, go to the dentist and have a cavity filled without Novocaine than do that. But there are certain people that perversely like doing it. There are certain people. Sanford loved doing it. I can remember back in 2002, he was happy when he looked at his calendar and said, "Oh, good, it's fundraising morning." And he would stand there by a phone and for 8, 6, 7 hours, however long it was, call people up and ask them to max out at $3,500. And every time he'd get somebody, you could hear him whoop it up in his den. I mean, he dug it. He liked it. I hate it. But if you're looking for a chairman of the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, the most important thing they have to have is the ability to pick up that phone and raise money. That's what they're there for. They're there to provide financial support for candidates. The candidates are responsible for having a good message. They've got to go out there and communicate it. They've got to go out there and sell the public. The party chairman's job is to give money to help them get that message out. So that's, as crass as that sounds, I mean, in the real world of politics, I mean, it's money that drives message, and you have to have a party chairman that has that ability to raise money. Sir.
My name is Ryan Lewis.
Ryan?
Ryan Lewis.
Hey, how are you?
I'm 16. I work at Florida A&M. My question is, why do so many politicians turn conservative at re-election time but they refuse to vote to reflect conservative values?
Why do so many politicians turn conservative at re-election time but then vote green? Well, they turn conservative at re-election time because that's what gets them re-elected. South Carolina is an overwhelmingly conservative state, and so they'll go out there on the stump and they'll say what they think the voters want to hear, and hope of being re-elected. But let me tell you what's happened in the last 5 years. This whole transparency debate. Your record now is there for anybody to see, and you can't run from that record. Being held accountable is going to be easier and easier. Before, we had a lot of votes that weren't on the record. Okay, there's voice votes. So you could act one way in Columbia and then go back and run as a conservative, and there was really no record to kind of hold you accountable and say, well, wait a minute, you say you're for this, but you voted that way. We have that now. We have roll call voting. We have the ability to say, well, you say that, Tom Davis, but on such and such day, this is the way you voted. How do you explain that difference? So that's the first change. The second change is I see people a lot more engaged now. People a lot more tuned in to what their elected official is doing and not being satisfied with rhetoric. They want to actually see you, walk the walk up in Columbia. So you're right. In the past, that's been done. I don't think that senators or representatives, all of whom were up for election in 2012, are going to get that pass anymore. There is a solid record out there on how they cast votes, and there's the ability by the public to go ahead and hold them accountable. So I don't think you're going to see that anymore. At least I hope we don't. Next question.
My name is James Matthews.
Hey, James.
I'm 14, and when I go to college, I'm going to play football. What can we, as a state, do to end the inflow of undocumented immigrants?
The first thing we can do is fund a law that was passed in 2008. We passed a law in 2008 that said to employers, before you hire any new workers, it didn't apply to former or current employees, but any new workers, before you hire them, you have to go ahead and have what's called an E-Verify background search done on them. There's a data bank by Homeland Security whereby you take the information from the new employee, you can put it in the computer, have that background check done, and if they don't screen out, they can't hire that employee or they'll be fined. So the first thing you can do with illegal immigrants is go to the very reason why they're here in the first place, which is because this is where they can work and get money and get paid. Okay, so providing enough money to Labor Licensing and Resources, that's the state agency, LLR, that is supposed to monitor this law and hold businesses accountable for that background check. So the most important thing we can do, I think, to curb the inflow of illegal immigrants is provide LLR with enough money so they can make sure that those businesses are complying with that 2008 law. I mean, a lot of businesses right now, and I can tell you this, are betting on the fact there's not going to be enough money for enforcement. And they're not doing the background checks because they think LLR will never have the people that can come down there and audit them. We can send a strong statement. In fact, I've got to go back and we're debating the budget right now. But the more money that we appropriate and give to LLR to do audits and make sure those businesses are doing the background checks, that's the strongest thing that I think we can do to curb illegal immigration. Now, the larger fix has got to be in Washington, D.C. I mean, they've got to enforce borders. They've got to have an immigration policy that addresses this problem. But at the state level, I think that's the most effective thing we can do. Question? I'm catching on now, they're here.
Okay, so, what's more...
And what's your name?
Oh, sorry, my name's Sarah.
Hey, Sarah.
And, I want to cheer for USC whenever I graduate.
All right.
What's more important to our state, bringing in high-paying jobs or bringing in high numbers of jobs?
Obviously, they're both important. But in terms of the types of jobs that I'd like to see us get, I'd love for us to get the high-paying jobs. I'd love for us to get the high-tech jobs, the ones that pay, beyond minimum wage, that aren't simply clerks and retail and things of that nature. And what that takes is a couple of things. We have to have a tax environment that is attractive to these companies when they come in. We have to have a low tax base. And the problem is we have a relatively high tax base because we're giving out all these special exemptions to everybody. I mean, you give $1 billion a year away in special tax breaks, everybody else pays higher taxes. And so the best thing we can do is lower the taxes for everybody. Let me give you an example of sales tax exemptions. Okay, we collect revenue in South Carolina essentially two ways. Sales tax revenues, you pay 6 or 7% on your purchases, that goes to government, and then you pay state income tax. We have 126 exemptions to the sales tax code, different businesses that don't have to pay sales tax. We exempt more in taxation than we collect. We exempt $2.7 billion a year in tax sales and collect only $2.1 billion. If you closed all those special deals, you could lower our state sales tax from 6% to 2%. Or you could take our top marginal income tax rate from 7% and lower it to 3%. You do that, and the high-tech companies and the high-growth companies and the companies of the high-paying wage jobs are going to come here. They're going to come here. And I think you're going to then have